The shuttle rattled violently as it broke through Alair Prime's stormy atmosphere. Evelyn Cross gripped the armrests of her seat, her jaw clenched. Around her, the cabin buzzed with murmured prayers and stifled sobs as the last evacuees from the planet huddled together. Smoke-streaked windows revealed a sky lit by streaks of plasma fire and distant explosions. The war was lost here. Evelyn forced herself to breathe evenly. The years had done little to soften her edge, but watching the collapse of Alair Prime brought back memories she'd worked hard to bury. Memories of other desperate evacuations, of comrades left behind. A sharp chime interrupted her thoughts. A holographic display flickered to life in front of her, bearing the face of a young UTA officer. His uniform was pristine, a stark contrast to the chaos around him. "Commander Cross, your request has been reviewed," he said stiffly. "We have no actionable intelligence on your daughter's whereabouts. All resources are focused on maintaining our core defenses." Evelyn's fists tightened. "She was part of a medical convoy ambush near the Corthian Ridge. You're telling me the United Terran Alliance doesn't even have time to recover its own people?" The officer hesitated, his polished demeanor cracking slightly. "We've suffered heavy losses. The Wraith are targeting our communication hubs." "Save it," Evelyn snapped, cutting him off. "I know an excuse when I hear one." The officer's face vanished as the transmission ended. Evelyn leaned back, her heart pounding. The weight of helplessness pressed down on her like a physical force. Mira was out there, alone in the middle of a battlefield, and no one was coming for her. "Hey, you okay?" The voice came from her seatmate, a scruffy mechanic who looked like he hadn't slept in days. "Fine," Evelyn lied. "Don't look it," he muttered, glancing at her weathered face. "But I get it. Everyone's got someone they're worried about." Evelyn didn't respond. Instead, she focused on the distant flashes of light below, each one a reminder of humanity's fragile position. By the time the shuttle docked at the UTA refugee station orbiting Alair Prime, Evelyn had made her decision. The station's corridors were a hive of frantic activity, soldiers barking orders, medics tending to the wounded, refugees wandering in shock. Evelyn weaved through the chaos with practiced precision, her eyes scanning for an unused terminal. She found one in a dimly lit corner and activated it. The screen flickered, and the face of Rico Alvarez appeared. Well, Rico drawled, his gravelly voice unmistakable. "If it isn't the Iron Witch herself. Thought you retired to sip cocktails on some beach." "Retirement's overrated," Evelyn replied. "I need your help." Rico's expression sobered. "This about the Wraith?" "Yeah. And Mira." Rico leaned back, his brows furrowing. "You're serious?" "Dead serious." He sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "I've got a business to run, you know. Can't just drop everything because you snapped your fingers." Evelyn leaned closer to the screen. "You owe me, Rico. Orion 3, remember? You were pinned down, and I got you out. That was 20 years ago. And you're still breathing because of it." Rico smirked faintly, though his eyes betrayed a hint of unease. "Fine. Where do you want me? I'll send the coordinates. Pack for a fight." The transmission ended, and Evelyn's shoulders relaxed slightly. One down. Next on her list was Lana Cho, the best hacker Evelyn had ever worked with. Lana's contact info led her to a corporate station orbiting the asteroid belt. The connection was sluggish, but eventually, Lana's face appeared, a sharp, angular visage framed by dark hair. "Evelyn Cross," Lana said flatly. "Didn't expect to hear from you again." "I'm pulling the team back together," Evelyn said without preamble. Lana snorted. "The team? Half of us are dead, and the other half are old and cranky." "Cranky's still useful." Lana raised an eyebrow. "What's this really about?" Evelyn hesitated, then said, "Myra's missing. And the Wraith are winning. I can't sit this out." For a moment, Lana said nothing, her expression unreadable. Then she leaned forward, her tone softening. "You're serious? Dead serious?" "Fine," Lana said with a sigh. "But if I get killed, I'm haunting you." Evelyn allowed herself a small smile. Noted. The final call was the hardest. Marcus Wren had been one of the best snipers in the UTA, but he hadn't been the same since the Battle of Epsilon Prime. Evelyn found him living alone on a forest moon, his once pristine uniform traded for a ragged jacket. "Eve," Marcus said when he answered her call. His voice was quiet, guarded. "Marcus. I need you." He shook his head. "I'm done with war. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important." "Everything's important to you," Marcus said bitterly. "That's how people end up dead." Evelyn stared at him, her jaw tight. "Myra's missing. The Wraith are experimenting on human captives. If we don't act, there won't be anyone left to fight for." Marcus hesitated, his gaze dropping. The silence stretched. Finally, he nodded. "One last time." Evelyn sat alone in the cramped cockpit of her shuttle, staring at the stars. The team was coming together, but the weight of what lay ahead felt suffocating. Her comm system crackled to life, and Rico's voice came through. "You better have a plan, Eve." "I always have a plan," she replied. "Yeah, and they're always insane." Evelyn smirked faintly. "See you soon." As the stars blurred into streaks of light, Evelyn allowed herself one brief moment of hope. For the first time in years, she felt alive. The war wasn't over yet. The stars outside the viewport shimmered like broken glass as Evelyn piloted the shuttle into the debris-strewn asteroid belt. She'd been running on adrenaline for days, her mind an endless loop of planning, doubts, and hope. The ship's autopilot chimed, signaling proximity to Rico's location. "Approaching Dock 5. The mechanical voice announced. "Got it," Evelyn muttered. The hangar was a mess of patched hulls and scavenged parts, a scrapyard more than a station. Evelyn spotted Rico immediately, a burly figure leaning against a rusted loading mech, arms crossed, a lopsided grin plastered on his face. "Well, you found me," Rico said as she stepped off the ramp. "Congratulations. Thought you'd forgotten how to fly." "Still better than you ever were," Evelyn replied, smirking. He laughed, the sound rough but genuine. Then his tone turned serious. "You're not just here for a reunion, are you? Not even close." Evelyn handed him a data pad. "This is what we're up against. The Wraith are using prisoners, our people, for bioweapon experiments. Myra's one of them." Rico scanned the data, his smile vanishing. "Hell," he muttered. "You sure about this? It's not just a hunch?" "I wouldn't have come otherwise." Rico nodded slowly. "All right. Let me grab my gear. If we're doing this, I'm doing it right." Their next stop was the corporate station where Lana Cho worked. The sleek, polished exterior of the station was a stark contrast to Rico's scrapyard, but inside, Evelyn found the same undercurrent of desperation. Lana met them in a dingy back room filled with outdated servers and spare parts. She was hunched over a terminal, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "You're late," Lana said without looking up. "We're right on time," Evelyn replied. Lana glanced at Rico, raising an eyebrow. "Still dragging this guy around? Like you're much better," Rico shot back. "All right, children," Evelyn cut in. "Focus. We've got a war to fight." Lana straightened and leaned against the desk. "What's the plan?" "We hit a Wraith facility," Evelyn explained. "Gather intel, rescue captives, and blow the place to hell." Lana crossed her arms. "And you think 3 people can pull this off?" Evelyn's expression hardened. "We're not 3 people. We're the best damn team the UTA ever had." Lana sighed. "Fine. But I'm charging you triple for this." "Add it to the tab," Evelyn replied, already heading for the door. The forest moon where Marcus Wren had isolated himself was eerily quiet. Evelyn's boots crunched on the soft undergrowth as she made her way to the small cabin nestled between towering trees. Rico and Lana waited by the shuttle, giving her space for this conversation. Marcus opened the door before she could knock. His eyes, shadowed and weary, locked onto hers. "Eve," he said simply. "Marcus," she replied. He stepped aside, motioning for her to enter. The cabin was sparse, with only the essentials: a cot, a table, and a rifle propped against the wall. "Didn't think I'd see you again," Marcus said, sitting on the edge of the table. "I didn't think I'd be here," Evelyn admitted. But things changed. She told him everything: the Wraith's experiments, Myra's disappearance, the stakes for humanity. Marcus listened in silence, his gaze fixed on a knot in the wooden floor. When she finished, he said, "You don't need me for this." "I do," Evelyn said firmly. "You're still the best shot I've ever known." He shook his head. "I'm not the man I used to be. Epsilon Prime saw to that." "I know," Evelyn said softly. "But you're still Marcus Wren. And right now, the team needs you. I need you." The silence stretched, broken only by the distant rustle of leaves. Finally, Marcus exhaled and stood. "One last time," he said. Back aboard the shuttle, the team was complete, but the air was thick with tension. Lana leaned against the console, arms crossed, while Rico fiddled with a makeshift explosive. Marcus sat quietly, cleaning his rifle. "This is cozy," Lana said dryly. "It'll get cozier if you keep running your mouth," Rico muttered. "All right, enough," Evelyn snapped. "We've got work to do." She activated the holographic display, projecting a detailed map of the Wraith facility. "This is where we're headed. It's a research outpost on the edge of Wraith territory. Security will be tight, but if we hit them fast and hard, we can pull this off." "Fast and hard, huh?" Rico said, smirking. "Just like old times." Lana rolled her eyes. "If we don't get killed first, then don't screw up," Evelyn said bluntly. The team spent the next several hours reviewing the plan, each member falling into their old roles as if no time had passed. Rico outlined demolition strategies, Lana hacked into intercepted Wraith communications, and Marcus calibrated his scope with surgical precision. Despite the banter, the underlying tension was clear. They were older, slower, and carrying scars, both visible and hidden. But they were also determined. By the time they reached the Wraith outpost, the team was ready. Evelyn piloted the shuttle into the planet's shadow, avoiding detection. The facility loomed in the distance, a cold, angular structure surrounded by sentry towers. Rico whistled softly. "That's a lot of guns." "Stick to the plan," Evelyn said. "Lana, you're up." Lana cracked her knuckles and began typing furiously. The facility's perimeter lights flickered and died. "Pass clear, for now," she said. The shuttle landed in a rocky outcrop half a mile from the facility. The team moved quickly, their movements precise and silent. As they approached the first sentry tower, Marcus raised his rifle, sighted the guard, and pulled the trigger. The alien crumpled silently. "Still got it," Rico whispered. "Keep moving," Evelyn said. They reached the outer wall, where Rico planted charges while Lana worked on bypassing the electronic locks. "This better be worth it," Lana muttered. "It will be," Evelyn said. "We're just getting started." The door slid open, revealing the cold, sterile interior of the Wraith facility. The team slipped inside, their weapons at the ready. Evelyn's heart pounded as she took point. They were in enemy territory now, and there was no turning back. "Welcome to the Lion's Den," Rico murmured. And with that, the mission began. The sterile corridors of the Wraith facility were oppressively quiet, the air cold and clinical. Evelyn motioned for the team to fan out as they crept deeper into the outpost, their boots barely making a sound on the metallic floor. Every shadow felt alive, every corner a potential ambush. "Lana, how's the map?" Evelyn whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of distant machinery. Lana glanced at her handheld terminal, the screen pulsing with lines of code. "Working on it. Their system's encrypted tighter than I expected. Give me a second." "We don't have a second," Rico muttered. He adjusted the strap of his pack, the faint clink of explosives inside cutting through the silence. "Keep it quiet," Evelyn hissed, her eyes scanning ahead. Marcus knelt by the intersection ahead, peering through the scope of his rifle. "2 guards, 50 meters. Looks like they're patrolling. Evelyn nodded. Take them out. With practiced efficiency, Marcus squeezed the trigger twice. The muffled crack of his silenced rifle echoed faintly, and the two Wraith guards dropped, their bodies slumping to the ground. Clear, Marcus said, standing. Let's move, Evelyn ordered. The team reached a central terminal, an imposing structure lined with glowing panels. Evelyn gestured for Lana to step forward while the rest of them formed a defensive perimeter. All right, big guy, Lana muttered to herself as she plugged her device into the terminal. Let's see what secrets you're hiding. Rico glanced over his shoulder. You always talk to computers? They're better listeners than most people. Lana shot back, her fingers dancing over the keyboard. Evelyn ignored the banter, her focus on the corridors. The eerie stillness felt wrong, like the facility itself was holding its breath. Got it, Lana said suddenly, her voice triumphant. Schematics, personnel logs, even experimental data. And no. What? Evelyn demanded. Lana's face paled. They've moved most of the captives to a secondary facility. This place is a decoy. Evelyn's stomach twisted. And Mira? Lana hesitated, her gaze dropping. There's no record of her here. Evelyn clenched her fists. Damn it! Wait, Lana added quickly. There's more. The experiments, they're testing some kind of bioweapon. They're close to deploying it. Then we destroy this place, Evelyn said, her voice hard. We might not save Mira here, but we'll make the Wraith pay. Rico grinned. Now you're speaking my language. The team worked quickly, planting charges throughout the facility. Rico led the effort, his expertise turning the sterile outpost into a ticking time bomb. Marcus kept watch, his sharp eyes scanning for any sign of movement. We've got incoming, he said after a few tense minutes. How many? Evelyn asked, her weapon already raised. Too many, Marcus replied grimly. The first wave of Wraith soldiers surged down the corridor, their sleek, insected armor gleaming under the harsh lights. Evelyn opened fire, her rifle spitting plasma bolts. The others joined in, the confined space amplifying the sound of battle. Fall back! Evelyn shouted as the enemy pressed closer. The team retreated into a narrow passage, using the choke point to their advantage. Marcus picked off targets with deadly precision, while Rico lobbed a grenade that sent a group of Wraith flying. We can't hold this position for long, Lana yelled over the chaos. We're not holding, Evelyn said. We're buying time. Rico, how long until the charges are ready? 2 minutes tops, Rico called back, firing at an advancing Wraith soldier. Make it 1, Evelyn snapped. The team fought their way toward the exit, the facility's alarms blaring in a cacophony of noise. Evelyn's heart pounded as she exchanged fire with the relentless enemy, every step feeling like a battle for survival. Charges are set, Rico shouted as they reached the outer corridor. Then let's go, Evelyn ordered. The team sprinted through the facility, the walls vibrating with the distant rumble of explosions as the first charges detonated. The Wraith pursued them relentlessly, their alien war cries echoing behind. Lana skidded to a halt at a sealed door, frantically hacking the control panel. Keep them off me. Working on it, Marcus said, firing down the corridor. Evelyn stood beside him, her shots precise and deliberate. Rico, any more surprises? Just this, Rico said, tossing a mine into the corridor. The explosion rocked the facility, buying them precious seconds. Doors open! Lana yelled, pulling the panel free. They rushed through, slamming the doors shut behind them. Evelyn activated the locking mechanism, sealing the pursuing Wraith inside. Everyone good? Evelyn asked, her breathing ragged. Define good, Rico said, wiping sweat from his face. We're alive, Marcus said flatly. That's enough. Outside, the team raced toward their shuttle. The facility loomed behind them, its structure riddled with fire and smoke. Get us out of here! Rico shouted as they boarded. Evelyn launched the shuttle, the engines roaring as they lifted off. Through the viewport, They watched as the final charges detonated, consuming the Wraith outpost in a fiery inferno. The explosion lit up the sky, a brief but satisfying reminder that humanity wasn't finished yet. Beautiful, Rico said, leaning back in his seat. Lana let out a shaky laugh. I can't believe we pulled that off. Evelyn didn't smile. Her mind was already on the next step. This was just the beginning, she said. The real fight's ahead. Marcus glanced at her. What's the plan? We track down the secondary facility, Evelyn said. And we finish this. The team exchanged glances, the weight of their mission settling over them. Then let's make it count, Marcus said. Evelyn nodded, her gaze fixed on the stars. The war wasn't over, not by a long shot. And as long as there was a chance to save Mira and stop the Wraith, she wouldn't stop. The shuttle disappeared into the void, carrying its crew toward an uncertain future.